Rule number 1 of surviving the city: never let an alpha catch your scent. Rule number 2: never let them know what hides under your skin. I spent years building my human disguise. I wear cheap sneakers. I work brutal 12-hour shifts at the trauma clinic. I swallow my growls and keep my head down. Bouncing between foster homes taught me how to stay invisible, and keeping my Omega bloodline a secret keeps me alive. But apex predators do not care about your plans. Tonight, the rain pours down, traffic sits frozen, and the most dangerous Lycan in town is about to wreck my car, shatter my quiet life, and force the wolf right out of my throat. Chapter 1. Tiana rubbed her sore neck. The city traffic sat frozen, a sea of glowing red brake lights stretching down the avenue. Her old, cherry-red sedan hummed beneath her. It rattled whenever she hit 40 miles an hour, but it ran. Tonight, she just needed it to get her home. 12 brutal hours. She just spent a full shift draining abscesses, wrapping sprained ankles, and dealing with angry patients at the county clinic. Her feet throbbed inside her cheap sneakers. Her blue scrubs felt sticky with dried sweat. She wanted nothing more than a hot shower and her lumpy, sagging mattress. Rain began to fall. The drops hit her windshield, smearing the streetlights into blurry streaks. She flipped the wiper switch. The rubber blades squeaked, scraping against the glass with a high-pitched squeal. She needed new wipers. She needed a lot of things: a vacation, a raise, a good night's sleep. But her bank account held other plans, dictating every strict budget she followed. A loud horn blared right behind her. Tiana jumped, her shoulders tensing. She checked her side mirror. A midnight blue coupe, sleek, low to the ground and screaming of ridiculous wealth, rode the line between the two lanes. The driver revved the engine. The powerful roar vibrated through the wet asphalt and straight up into Tiana's floorboards. He wanted to cut in. He wanted her to move over so he could skip the line. But there was nowhere to go. Cars boxed her in on all sides. Tiana tightened her grip on the steering wheel. She let her foot off the brake just enough to inch the sedan forward, closing the tiny gap behind a delivery truck. "Not today," she muttered to herself. "I do not have the patience for rich jerks tonight." The blue car honked again. This time the driver held his hand on the horn. A long, annoying blast echoed down the block. The sleek vehicle edged closer. The shiny, flawless paint sat mere inches from her rusty back fender. Tiana threw her car into park. Her temper flared, burn away her exhaustion. She rolled down her window. The cold rain hit her face, dampening her hair, but the chill did nothing to cool her anger. She shoved her head out into the storm. "Wait your turn!" she yelled, her voice cutting through the steady drum of the rain. "We all want to go home. The line is back there." The tinted window of the sports car slid down with a smooth, quiet hum. The man sitting behind the wheel did not look apologetic. He looked dangerous. He had a sharp jaw and dark hair pushed back from his forehead. He wore a crisp, tailored suit that looked fresh off a runway. He leaned his arm on the doorframe. A confident, arrogant grin spread across his face, showing off straight white teeth. "Move the junker," he called back. His voice rumbled, deep, rough, and used to giving orders. Tiana scoffed. Her jaw dropped in disbelief. "It's called a traffic jam, buddy. Learn how the world works." The man's grin widened. For a split second, his dark eyes flashed a striking, unnatural gold. Tiana blinked. A deep, dormant instinct flared in her chest, a wild urge to bare her teeth. She knew exactly what that gold flash meant. Alpha. She shoved the panic down, a survival habit drilled into her since her days bouncing between foster homes. She forced herself to play dumb and act human. Justin sat in the driver's seat of the coupe. Beneath his skin, his inner beast snapped. The wolf demanded respect. A simple human dared to raise her voice at an alpha? The beast wanted to rip the steering wheel off the dashboard and show her who ruled this city. But then, the wolf paused. Justin took a breath. He caught her scent cutting through the exhaust fumes and the rain. sweet chamomile mixed with fresh earth. The beast stopped snarling. Instead, it let out a low, curious chuff inside his mind. It liked her fire. Justin ignored the unhinged animal. He had a city to run, rivals to crush, and a crucial meeting waiting for him across town. He hated rules. He despised waiting in line. He built his empire by taking what he wanted. "I said move," Justin warned, his tone dropping an octave. "No," Tiana snapped right back. She glared at him, refusing to back down. She rolled her window up, sealing out the storm, and turned her attention back to the delivery truck ahead of her. Justin's patience snapped. He shifted his car into drive. He turned the steering wheel hard to the right and slammed his foot down on the gas pedal. The midnight blue coupe lunged forward like a striking snake. Metal screamed. Tiana gasped as her car jerked violently sideways. The impact shattered her left headlight, sending glass raining onto the wet pavement. The sickening crunch of her front bumper crumpling folded inward. Her cherry-red sedan shuddered, let out a pathetic hiss from the radiator, and died. Tiana sat frozen in her seat, her hands clamped the wheel, her breath hitched. He actually hit her. He rammed his car right into hers on purpose. Justin threw his door open and stepped out into the downpour. The storm did not seem to bother him at all. He stood tall, broad-shouldered, and completely unbothered by the destruction. He walked over to the twisted metal of their cars. His perfect bumper sat lodged deep inside her crushed fender. Tiana pushed her door open. She stumbled out into the puddle, her pulse racing with shock and rage. "Are you insane?" she screamed, pointing a shaky finger at the wreckage. Justin looked down at her. He showed zero remorse. He did not check to see if she was hurt. He just looked at the damage and then back to her furious face. "I told you to move," Justin stated calmly. "You rammed my car!" Tiana stepped closer, tilting her head back to glare up at him. "You destroyed it!" Justin crossed his arms over his chest. A smug look settled on his features. "I make my own roads." Chapter 2. Tiana stared at the smoking wreckage. The rain soaked through her thin scrubs, sticking the fabric to her skin. Her knees trembled, not from fear, but from the sudden rush of adrenaline. She looked at the crumpled hood of her sedan. Steam hissed from the broken radiator, rising into the cold night air. The left side of the bumper bent inward, pinning the front tire. The car was not going anywhere. She turned her glare to the man standing next to her. Justin remained completely still. He did not check his own car, he just watched her. His dark eyes tracked every move she made, cataloging her reaction. Beneath his suit, Justin's inner beast paced back and forth. The wolf felt a sudden jolt of guilt. The beast whined, realizing they just destroyed the mate's transportation. "Fix it," the wolf urged. "Give her everything." Justin clenched his jaw to silence the ridiculous animal in his head. He did not do guilt. He caused a problem, so he would fix it the way he fixed everything else. With cash. Justin reached inside his tailored jacket. He pulled out a sleek leather wallet. He flipped it open and withdrew a thick stack of $100 bills. He did not count them. He just held the fat wad of cash out toward her. "Take this," Justin commanded. "Buy a new one. Get out of the street." Tiana looked from his outstretched hand to his face. She let out a harsh, bitter laugh. "Are you serious?" "I do not joke," he replied, thrusting the money closer. Tiana felt a hot wave of anger rise in her chest. This arrogant jerk thought he could just smash her life and buy his way out of it. She knew exactly what a repair bill like this meant. The tow truck alone would take her grocery money for the week. Fixing the axle and replacing the radiator would drain her entire savings account down to zero. She worked 12-hour shifts for pennies, and this guy treated a totaled vehicle like a minor inconvenience. "Keep your money," Tiana snapped. Justin frowned. His brow furrowed in genuine confusion. People never refused his money. "It covers the damage. Take it." "I don't want your cash." Tiana stepped into his space, refusing to be intimidated by his size. I want you to learn how to drive like a normal person. I want you to realize that your actions actually affect other people. You can't just wreck someone's property because you hate waiting in traffic." Justin stood silent. The sheer force of her anger caught him off guard. She did not cower. She did not act impressed by his wealth. She stood in the pouring rain, demanding respect. His inner wolf let out a happy bark. The beast loved her fire. The wolf wanted to roll over and expose its belly right there on the wet asphalt. Justin had to dig his fingernails into his palms to maintain his stoic expression. "You are being irrational," Justin stated, keeping his voice level. "And you are a menace," Tiana fired back. She turned around. She marched back to her ruined sedan, popped the trunk, and grabbed her worn-out canvas backpack. She slammed the trunk shut. The noise made Justin flinch. "Where are you going?" he demanded, taking a step toward her. "Away from you," she said, slinging the backpack over her shoulder. She did not look back. She walked away from the smoking cars, leaving the billionaire standing alone in the rain. Tiana navigated the crowded sidewalk. She ignored the stares of the onlookers who had stopped to watch the crash. She focused on putting one foot in front of the other. The adrenaline began to fade, leaving behind a deep, bone-tiring exhaustion. She reached the corner and spotted the bright yellow sign of the city bus stop. She stood under the small plastic shelter. The wind whipped rain through the open sides, chilling her to the bone. She pulled out her phone and checked her banking app. The screen illuminated her face in the dark. A meager number stared back at her. She swallowed hard. She would have to call a cheap tow company in the morning. Then she would have to figure out how to pay rent. 10 minutes later, the city bus pulled up to the curb. The doors hissed open. Tiana climbed the steps. She paid her fare and walked down the narrow aisle. The seats were hard plastic. The floor smelled of stale pretzels and wet umbrellas. She sat down near a foggy window and leaned her head against the cool glass. She closed her eyes, replaying the crash in her mind. The stranger's golden eyes flashed in her memory. She tried to shake the image away. She had real problems to deal with now. She could not afford to dwell on an arrogant driver. The bus lurched forward, carrying her away from the wreckage, but she could still feel the phantom weight of his stare following her all the way home. Chapter 3. Justin sat at the head of a sprawling glass table in the top-floor boardroom of his downtown high-rise. The city sprawled below him, a grid of busy streets and tiny cars. He wore a fresh suit, showing no sign of the rain or the crash from the night before. His face remained a mask of cold authority. 5 rival CEOs sat around the table. They were all Alpha Lycans, each controlling a different sector of the state. They met once a quarter to argue over territory, supply lines, and trade agreements. The air in the room felt thick with tension and the clashing sense of dominant predators. Marcus, an older alpha with graying hair and a permanent scowl, slammed his fist on the table. "You cannot raise the transport tariffs again, Justin. My pack will not absorb the cost." Justin leaned back in his leather chair. He let the silence stretch, forcing Marcus to squirm under his gaze. "The tariffs remain. If you cannot afford the roads, find a new route." A low growl rumbled in Marcus's chest. Justin met the challenge with a hard stare, ready to escalate. But inside his mind, Justin fought a completely different war. His inner beast whined. The loud, pathetic noise echoed through his skull. The wolf did not care about tariffs. It did not care about Marcus or the rival alphas. The beast paced relentlessly, scratching at the walls of Justin's mind. "Find her," the wolf demanded. "The fiery nurse. Go get her." Justin ground his teeth together. He tried to focus on the financial reports sitting in front of him, but the beast pushed harder. The wolf projected images of Tiana standing in the rain, her eyes blazing with defiance. "She needs us," the wolf whimpered. "We broke her metal box. We must protect her." Justin picked up his phone from the table. He opened a messaging app, intending to pull up a private security file. He needed his enforcers to track her down, just to make sure she made it home safely. It was a tactical decision, Nothing more. He just needed to know her location. The beast sensed his intent. The wolf surged forward, taking control for 3 frantic seconds. Justin's thumbs moved on their own. He swiped past the security contacts. He opened the main chat group, a secure channel shared by every ruthless alpha in the city. The beast wanted to declare its claim to the world. It wanted everyone to know they found a mate. Justin tried to stop his fingers, but the animal strength overpowered him. His thumb tapped the sticker menu. He selected a bright, animated cartoon wolf. The cartoon animal had huge, watery eyes and held a giant, shiny red heart in its paws. Before Justin could regain control, his thumb hit send. A soft chime echoed from 5 different phones around the boardroom table. Justin froze. His heart stopped. He stared at his screen. The ridiculous cartoon wolf bounced up and down in the chat window, offering its shiny red heart to the most violent men in the city. Marcus pulled his phone from his pocket. He frowned at the screen. He looked up at Justin, his face twisting in total confusion. The other alphas checked their messages. The tense, aggressive atmosphere in the room vanished, replaced by awkward, stunned silence. "Justin," Marcus started, clearing his throat, "did you mean to send this?" Justin's mind raced. He could not delete it. The app did not allow retractions. He could not admit his beast hijacked his body over a human woman. That showed weakness. An alpha never showed weakness. Justin set his phone face down on the glass table. He kept his expression frozen in a deadly, unbothered stare. He folded his hands together. "It is a coded threat," Justin lied, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "A cartoon puppy with a heart?" "Yes," Justin said, not breaking eye contact. "It signifies that I hold the heart of your operations in my hand. If you challenge the tariffs again, I will crush it." The alphas exchanged nervous glances. Justin's reputation for brutality was legendary. If he said the cute sticker was a death threat, they believed him. None of them wanted to test his sanity. "Understood," Marcus muttered, sliding his phone away. "We will pay the tariffs." The meeting wrapped up an hour later. The rivals filed out of the room, keeping a wide distance from Justin. As soon as the heavy wooden doors clicked shut, Justin let his head fall forward. He rested his forehead against the cool glass table. His phone buzzed. He picked it up. A new message popped into the group chat from an alpha across town. "Message received, Justin. Sending my tribute tomorrow. Please do not hurt us." Justin groaned. He spent years building a reputation as a cold, calculating monster. Now, his rivals thought he was an unhinged lunatic who communicated through cute animal graphics. He rubbed his temples, feeling a massive headache forming. "Good job," his inner wolf purred happily. "Now everyone knows we are in love. Let's go find her." Justin pushed himself away from the table. He had to fix this mess. He had to find the nurse and get his beast under control before he lost his mind completely. Chapter 4. Justin did not sleep. He spent the entire night fighting his inner beast. The wolf demanded they present the mate with a grand offering to apologize for the car. Justin refused. He was a billionaire CEO, not a romantic fool. He compromised by ordering a full background check on Tiana. By dawn, he had her file. He knew her work schedule, her tiny apartment address, and her shoe size. The last detail sparked an idea. His beast hated the cheap, worn-out sneakers she wore at the clinic. The wolf whined that her feet hurt. Justin decided to solve the problem with sheer, overwhelming force. He would provide, but he would do it on his own terms. At noon, Tiana unlocked the front door of her cramped third-floor apartment. She survived a morning shift filled with crying toddlers and missing paperwork. She just wanted to heat up leftover soup and sit in silence. She pushed the door open and stopped dead in her tracks. Boxes. Hundreds of cardboard boxes filled her living room. They stacked from the cheap carpet all the way to the popcorn ceiling. They blocked the television. They covered her small sofa. A narrow pathway remained, leading from the front door to the kitchen counter. Justin stood in the middle of her kitchen. He wore a dark gray suit, looking completely out of place against her faded wallpaper. He held a clipboard. Two large men in black security uniforms stood behind him, placing the final boxes onto the towering pile. "What is this?" Tiana gasped, dropping her keys. Justin turned to face her. His expression remained stoic and unreadable. He did not smile. He gestured to the mountain of cardboard with a quick wave of his hand. "Your current shoes are a tactical liability," Justin stated. His voice sounded calm, like he was discussing a corporate merger instead of breaking and entering. "They lack proper arch support. A nurse requires premium shock absorption to maintain efficiency." Tiana blinked. She stared at the boxes. She read the label on the closest one: high-end, custom-molded orthopedic nursing shoes. Each pair cost a fortune. She looked around the room. "How many are here?" she asked, her voice tight. 200 pairs, Justin answered. "I purchased the entire inventory from the medical supplier. I wasn't sure if you preferred white or gray, so I secured both." Inside Justin's head, his wolf did rapid, joyful spins. The beast panted with excitement. "We provided! We fixed her feet! She loves it!" Justin kept his jaw locked. He refused to let the wolf's desperate joy show on his face. He looked at Tiana, waiting for her to thank him. He expected awe. Tiana stepped into the apartment. She closed the door behind her. She did not look awed. She looked furious. "You broke into my home," Tiana said, her voice dangerously low. "The lock is weak," Justin countered. "I bypassed it in 4 seconds. You need better security." "I need you out of my apartment," Tiana yelled, throwing her hands up. "What is wrong with you? Yesterday you destroyed my only way to get to work, and today you turned my living room into a warehouse." Justin frowned. This reaction did not match his calculations. "I am replacing your equipment." "They are shoes, you lunatic, not a military uniform." She grabbed the closest box and shoved it at his chest. Justin caught it easily, his strong hands gripping the cardboard. "I don't want your money, and I don't want your shoes. Take them back." "They are yours," Justin insisted. He set the box down on the counter. "You work on your feet. You require proper gear." Tiana marched right up to him. She ignored the 2 massive security guards standing in the corner. She pointed a finger right at Justin's chest. "Listen to me very carefully," she said, her brown eyes blazing with annoyance. "I solve my own problems. When I need new shoes, I buy them. I do not accept handouts from arrogant men who think they can run over my life and paste it back together with expensive garbage." Justin stared down at her. Her scent washed over him again, stronger this time in the enclosed space. The sweet chamomile hit his senses. The wolf whimpered, demanding he bow his head. Justin fought the urge, keeping his spine straight. He admired her stubbornness. Most people took his gifts and cowered. She threw them back in his face. "Fine," Justin said smoothly. He nodded to his guards. "Leave the boxes. We are departing." "No, take them with you," Tiana shouted, waving her arms at the towering stacks. "I do not accept returns," Justin said, stepping past her toward the door. He paused in the doorway and looked back over his shoulder. He let a tiny, arrogant smirk touch his lips. "Try the gray pair. They match your scrubs." He walked out, the 2 guards following silently behind him. The door clicked shut. Tiana stood alone in her apartment. She let out a frustrated scream, the sound muffled by 200 boxes of premium footwear. She kicked the nearest box, stubbing her toe, which only made her angrier. She was trapped in a ridiculous nightmare, and the billionaire showed no signs of leaving her alone. Chapter 5. Grip pressed his back against the damp brick of the alleyway. The rogue scout kept his breathing shallow. He pulled the collar of his worn denim jacket up to block the chill. Across the cracked asphalt of the street, the county clinic's neon sign buzzed, casting a harsh pink glare over the sidewalk. Grip hated this side of the city. It lacked wealth. It lacked power. But his boss, Krav, wanted every inch of the territory. Krav planned to take the docks, the warehouses, and the glittering high-rises downtown. To do that, they needed to break the billionaire Alpha who ruled the concrete grid. Grip scanned the street. His gaze stopped on a vehicle parked half a block down from the clinic doors. It was a low-slung, dark sports car. The vehicle sat idle, a dark shark waiting in the shadows. Grip recognized the ride immediately. Every shifter in the underground knew Justin's car. What did the city's most ruthless CEO want with a rundown medical center? Grip stayed hidden behind an overflowing dumpster. He watched. 10 minutes passed. The clinic's glass doors slid open. A woman stepped out into the night air. She wore faded gray scrubs and a bulky canvas backpack slung over one shoulder. Her brown eyes looked tired, and she rubbed the back of her neck as she walked. Inside the midnight blue coupe, a silhouette shifted. Justin leaned forward. The Alpha did not step out of the car, but his attention locked onto the nurse. Grip narrowed his eyes, his predator instincts flaring. Justin ran a tight ship. He showed no weaknesses, took no prisoners, and built a reputation on cold, calculated violence. Yet here he sat, wasting a Tuesday evening parked outside a public health building, watching a simple human walk down the sidewalk. A cruel grin stretched across Grip's scarred face. He flared his nostrils, pulling in the scents of the street. Exhaust fumes, wet concrete, and cutting through it all, the faint, lingering smell of sweet chamomile and fresh earth trailing behind the woman. The scent of a mate. The Alpha found a mate, and she was a fragile, exhausted nurse without a security detail. Grip pulled a burner phone from his pocket. He tapped out a quick text message to Krav. I found the crack in his armor. He shoved the phone away and stepped out of the alley. He kept his distance, trailing Tiana down the block. He watched her posture. She did not act like someone under the protection of a billionaire. She walked with her head down, dodging puddles, looking stressed. Justin's car rolled slowly down the street, keeping pace with her from a distance. The billionaire thought he was being subtle. Grip knew better. The Alpha's inner beast had him leashed, forcing him to guard the girl from the shadows. Grip memorized her face. He noted the bus stop where she waited. He logged the route number illuminated on the front of the transit vehicle when it arrived to pick her up. Krav would reward him for this information. The rogue gang did not need to attack Justin in his fortress of glass and steel. They just needed to grab the girl. Once they had the nurse, the billionaire would fall to his knees and hand over the city keys. Grip turned around and melted back into the darkness. The hunt was on. Welcome back to Linas' Romantasy collection, where the Alphas run the city, but the heroines own the streets. Quick question for the pack before we dive into today's turf war. Where are you listening from right now? Tell me in the comments and drop a coffee cup emoji if you need a serious caffeine boost to survive the day, just like our girl Tiana. Today we have a wild one. It brings the heat, it packs a punch, and it involves a furious clinic nurse facing off against a billionaire Lycan who just wrecked her cherry red sedan. But before we start the engine, if you want to support the channel and get early access to stories like this, hit that join button down below. It keeps the lights on and the fresh audiobooks coming. Now grab your headphones. The Alpha thinks he makes the rules, but this Omega bites back. Let's read. Chapter 6. Tiana shivered as a gust of wind swept down the avenue. The morning shift at the clinic started in 20 minutes. She stood in line at a small metal coffee cart parked near the hospital entrance. She needed caffeine to survive the day. The 200 boxes of ridiculous orthopedic shoes still crowded her apartment, mocking her bank account. She paid the vendor with crumpled dollar bills and took the hot paper cup. She turned around to walk toward the clinic doors. A man in a rush sprinted past the cart, his head buried in his phone. He slammed his shoulder hard into Tiana's chest. The impact knocked the breath out of her. The paper cup crumpled in her grip. Scalding dark roast coffee erupted, splashing across her chest and soaking into her gray scrubs. The liquid burned her skin. "Watch it!" the stranger snapped, blaming her for the collision. Before Tiana could open her mouth, a dark blur crossed the sidewalk. Justin moved with terrifying speed. He materialized out of the morning crowd. His tailored suit jacket billowed behind him. His large hands shot out, grabbing the rude stranger by the throat. He slammed the man backward into the brick wall of the nearest building. The impact rattled the windows. The stranger gasped, his phone clattering to the pavement. Justin's dark eyes flashed a striking bright gold. Inside Justin's head, his inner wolf roared. The beast demanded a permanent end to the threat. He hurt the mate. He burned her. Break him. Justin's fingers tightened around the man's windpipe. He bared his teeth, abandoning all pretenses of human restraint. "Justin, stop!" Tiana's voice cut through the red haze. She ignored the burning liquid soaking her shirt. She stepped right between the billionaire and the terrified stranger. She placed her hands flat against Justin's chest. "Let him go," she commanded. She used the strict, level tone she reserved for combative patients in the emergency room. No panic, just authority. Justin's chest heaved. He stared down at her, his golden eyes wild. The wolf inside him pushed back, wanting to finish the fight. "He harmed you," Justin growled, his voice a low, rough scrape. "It is coffee," Tiana said, holding his gaze. "He bumped into me. It was an accident. Drop him right now." She did not flinch. She did not back away from the furious Alpha. She stood her ground, demanding he listen. Justin gritted his teeth. He felt her calm energy radiating through her palms. The sheer force of her will forced his beast to sit down. The wolf whined, confused but eager to please her. Justin opened his hand. The stranger dropped to the sidewalk, coughing and gasping for air. The man scrambled to his feet, grabbed his cracked phone, and ran down the block without looking back. Justin stared at the brown stain spreading across Tiana's scrubs. His hands twitched. He wanted to buy her a new shirt. He wanted to buy the entire clothing store. He reached out to brush the wet fabric, but she swatted his hand away. "Don't," Tiana said, taking a step back. "You cannot assault people on the street." "I protect what is mine," he replied, straightening his cuffs. "I am not yours," she shot back. "I am a nurse trying to get to work. Stay out of my way." She turned on her heel and marched into the clinic, leaving Justin standing on the sidewalk. He watched the glass doors close behind her. A strange feeling settled in his chest. Awe. She controlled a raging Lycan with a single look. His wolf let out a happy bark. She was perfect. Chapter 7. Tiana stood at her usual bus stop the next morning. The rain stopped, but the chill remained. She checked her watch. The rusty city bus usually ran 10 minutes late. It smelled like bleach and disappointment. She pulled her jacket tighter, mentally preparing for the miserable commute. A sleek, silver bus rounded the corner. It stopped right in front of her. The doors hissed open. Tiana frowned. This vehicle looked brand new. The exterior shined. She climbed the steps, holding out her transit card. The driver wore a crisp uniform and offered a warm smile. "Good morning, miss. Fares are waived today. Please take a seat." Tiana blinked in surprise. The rude driver who always yelled at teenagers was gone. She walked down the aisle. The hard plastic benches were missing. In their place sat rows of plush, dark leather seats. The floor looked spotless. The air smelled like subtle pine instead of wet dog. She sat down in the nearest leather chair. It felt like sinking into a luxury sofa. This made no sense. The City Transit Authority held zero budget for upgrades. A discarded morning newspaper sat on the empty seat beside her. Tiana picked it up. The bold headline on the business page caught her eye. "Justin Holdings acquires City Transit System in midnight deal." Tiana gripped the paper. She read the article. The billionaire purchased the entire fleet, fired the management, and injected millions into upgrading the vehicles overnight. She dropped the paper. Her blood boiled. She rejected his cars. She rejected his money. So he just bought the bus. When the bus reached the downtown district, Tiana did not head toward the clinic. She marched straight to the towering glass skyscraper that housed Justin Holdings. She ignored the lavish lobby and stepped into the elevator, pressing the button for the top floor. The doors opened to a sleek reception area. A security guard stepped forward to block her path. "Ma'am, you need an appointment." "Move," Tiana ordered, sidestepping the large man. She pushed open the heavy double doors of Justin's private office. Justin sat behind a sprawling mahogany desk. He looked up from his tablet. He wore a dark suit, his face a mask of calm control. "You bought a bus company," Tiana shouted, throwing her hands in the air. Justin set his tablet down. "I diversified my portfolio." "Do not lie to me. You did this because I refused your cars." She walked up to his desk, planting her hands on the polished wood. "You cannot control how I get to work." "Public transit is unsafe," Justin countered. His voice stayed smooth, but his inner wolf spun in happy circles, thrilled she sat on leather seats instead of hard plastic. "I improved the city infrastructure." "You are insane," Tiana said, shaking her head. "You cannot buy everything around me just to force your way into my life." Justin leaned forward. He rested his elbows on the desk. "I removed the rude drivers. I upgraded the seating. Your commute is now efficient. Why are you angry?" "Because it takes away my choice," she fired back. "I decide how I live. I decide how I travel. If you want to impress me, try treating me like an equal instead of a problem you can solve with a checkbook." She pushed away from the desk and headed for the door. Justin watched her go. He did not chase her. His beast whined, hating the distance between them. But the alpha mind clicked with realization. Throwing money at her only made her mad. She demanded respect. That was a currency he rarely spent. He had to change his tactics. Chapter 8. Justin sat alone in his office. He poured a glass of water, trying to silence the restless beast pacing in his mind. The wolf wanted to follow Tiana back to the clinic. Justin forced himself to focus on his empire. A knock sounded at the door. Bram, his lead enforcer, stepped into the room. Bram held a wooden box the size of a shoebox. He set it on Justin's desk. "This arrived at the loading dock," Bram stated, his expression grim. "The courier ran before we could grab him." Justin stared at the rough wood. He caught the sour, foul scent of rogue wolves leaking from the seams. Krav. The rival boss finally made his move. Justin reached into his desk drawer. He pulled out a pair of thick leather gloves and pulled them on over his hands. Rule number 1 of survival. Werewolves cannot touch silver without protective gears. The metal burned their skin and poisoned their blood. He unlatched the box and flipped the lid open. Inside sat a rolled-up map of the city. Pinned to the center of the paper, right over the downtown district, was a wicked silver dagger. The blade gleamed under the office lights. Dried blood stained the hilt. Justin grabbed the hilt with his gloved hand and yanked the dagger free. He unrolled the map. Red ink circled the clinic where Tiana worked. A message was scrawled across the bottom in jagged letters. "The streets are ours. We take what we want." His inner beast exploded. The wolf roared, a soundless scream of pure violence. The rogues dared to threaten the mate. They marked her territory. The beast wanted to tear out Crab's throat and mount his head on a spike. Justin kept his face frozen. He did not show the panic raging inside him. He looked up at Bram. "Call the others," Justin ordered, his tone flat and deadly. Within 10 minutes, 5 heavily muscled enforcers stood in the office. Justin tossed the silver dagger onto the table. It clattered against the wood. "Krav thinks he can challenge my hold on this city," Justin said, pacing behind his desk. He projected the cold, calculating aura of a general planning a massacre. "He marked the medical district as his starting point. He wants a war." "We crush them tonight," Bram said, cracking his knuckles. "No," Justin commanded. "We do not rush blindly into the dark. We secure the borders first." Justin pointed to the map. He directed his men to set up perimeters around the docks and the warehouses. He gave orders with brutal precision. He showed no mercy in his strategy. He proved exactly why he ruled the Alpha Alliance with an iron fist. But beneath the tactical commands, every order revolved around one goal: keeping the rogues far away from the county clinic. "Bram," Justin added, his voice dropping. "Take 2 men. Shadow the nurse. If any rogue steps within 50 feet of her, end them." Bram nodded, accepting the order without question. The enforcers filed out of the room to prepare for the bloodshed. Justin stood alone by the window, looking out over the gray skyline. The turf war started. Krav wanted a fight, and Justin would give him one. The billionaire stripped off the leather gloves and placed his hands flat against the cold glass. His inner wolf snarled, ready to paint the streets red to keep Tiana safe. Chapter 9. Tiana pushed through the clinic's glass doors and stepped into the cool evening air. Her feet ached. 12 hours of wrapping bandages and dodging stressed doctors left her drained. She adjusted the straps of her bulky canvas backpack over her shoulders. She wore the same faded gray scrubs, now sporting a faint bleach stain near the hem to cover up yesterday's coffee disaster. She just wanted to catch the silver transit bus and fall face first into her lumpy mattress. A dark figure stepped out from the shadows of the brick wall. Tiana stopped. Justin stood under the flickering street lamp. He wore a charcoal suit, the fabric clinging to his broad shoulders. His dark sports car sat parked at the curb, its engine humming a low, steady rhythm. "Get in," Justin commanded, gesturing to the passenger door. Tiana tightened her grip on her backpack straps. "No, I take the bus." Justin ground his teeth together. "We need to talk about your safety. My enemies marked this area. Get in the car, Tiana." She crossed her arms over her chest. The billionaire thought he could bark orders and expect compliance. He bought a transit company just to prove a point. She refused to give him another inch of control. "If we need to talk, we talk in public," Tiana countered. She pointed down the block to a glowing neon sign shaped like a hamburger. "That diner, 10 minutes, then I go home." Justin stared at her. His inner beast scratched at his skull, whining for her to just get in the safe metal box so they could lock the doors. But the wolf also loved her defiance. Justin nodded once. He locked the car and fell into step beside her. They walked into the street diner. The air smelled of burnt grease and frying onions. Synthetic red leather booths lined the walls. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glare on the sticky linoleum floor. It was a chaotic, loud, messy room. Justin looked like a panther forced into a petting zoo. Tiana slid into a corner booth. Justin sat across from her. He kept his spine straight, his eyes scanning the exits, calculating every possible threat in the room. A young waiter approached their table. He held a plastic water pitcher. He wore a stained apron and chewed on a piece of gum. "What can I get you to?" he asked, leaning close to Tiana to wipe a smudge off the table. His elbow brushed against her gray scrubs. A low, vibrating growl ripped through Justin's chest. The sound did not seem human. It sounded like an animal preparing to strike. The waiter froze, his eyes widening. The water pitcher trembled in his hand. Inside Justin's head, his beast lost its mind. He touched her. Break his arm, bite his throat out, rip him apart. Justin gripped the edge of the cheap laminate table. His knuckles turned white. The wood cracked under his fingers. He fought a brutal war against his own body, forcing the monster back down into the dark. "Back away," Justin said. His voice dropped to a dangerous, rough scrape. The waiter scrambled backward, spilling ice water on the floor, and bolted toward the kitchen. Tiana watched the entire exchange. She leaned back against the red booth and let out a bright, genuine laugh. The sound cut through the clatter of plates and the buzzing lights. Justin blinked, the red haze fading from his vision. He looked at her, confused. "He breached your personal space." "He wiped the table," Tiana said, a smirk playing on her lips. "You look like you swallowed a brick. I have never seen someone sit so stiff in my entire life. I am maintaining a perimeter, he argued, his jaw locked tight. You are posturing, she corrected, resting her chin in her hand. You think you have to act like a stone wall to keep the world away. It must be exhausting, carrying all that fake armor around. Justin stared into her brown eyes. She did not fear him. She saw right through his ruthless CEO mask and called out his behavior like a scolding teacher. His inner wolf let out a happy, vibrating purr, thrilled that the mate understood them so well. Justin relaxed his grip on the table. The cracked laminate dug into his palm, but the tension in his shoulders finally eased. For the first time all week, he let out a short, quiet breath. Chapter 10. The silver bus dropped Tiana 2 blocks from her apartment. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting long, warped shadows across the cracked pavement. She walked with purpose, her keys clenched tight in her fist, knuckles resting between her fingers. Her street smarts never slept. Living in this neighborhood required constant vigilance. Justin's warning from the diner echoed in her mind. He told her a rival gang wanted his territory. He told her they marked the clinic. He offered his protection, and she told him to keep his enforcers out of her sight. She reached the front steps of her building. The concrete felt damp from the morning rain. The lobby door stood propped open with a rusted paint can. She walked inside and started the climb up 3 flights of stairs. The hallway smelled of boiled cabbage and stale cigarette smoke. Tiana reached the 3rd-floor landing. She turned the corner to her unit. She stopped cold. The wooden door to her apartment hung slightly ajar. The cheap deadbolt lock was shattered. Twisted shards of metal littered the worn hallway carpet. The wood frame surrounding the knob looked splintered, kicked inward with brutal force. A cold spike of adrenaline hit her stomach. A broken door cannot be reopened without being fixed. The lock was destroyed. Someone forced their way inside. She did not gasp. She did not reach for the handle. Tiana knew better than to walk into a confined space with a compromised entrance. The 200 boxes of ridiculous orthopedic shoes sat inside that room, but she cared 0% about footwear right now. Tiana backed away. She kept her eyes glued to the dark gap of the open doorway. She took silent steps backward until she reached the stairwell. Once she hit the top step, she spun around and sprinted down the 3 flights of stairs. She burst out of the lobby and hit the street. She ran half a block, ducking into the bright, fluorescent glow of a corner bodega. She stood near the back aisle behind a row of canned beans, her chest heaving. She pulled her phone from her pocket and hit Justin's number. He answered on the first ring. "Speak." "Someone broke into my apartment," Tiana said. She kept her voice steady, refusing to panic. "The door is smashed. I am down the street at the bodega." "Stay there. Do not move." The line went dead. 4 minutes later, the roar of a high-performance engine tore down the street. Justin's roaring engine hopped the curb, the heavy vehicle stopping inches from the bodega's front doors. Justin stepped out before the vehicle even settled. He wore the same charcoal suit, but the tie was gone, and his eyes burned with an unnatural, furious light. Tiana walked out of the store. Justin crossed the pavement in 3 long strides. He grabbed her shoulders, his large hands checking her for injuries. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, his voice a rough growl. "I am fine. I didn't go inside." Justin let out a sharp breath. His inner beast roared, a violent storm of possessive rage. He turned his head toward her apartment building down the block. He flared his nostrils. The scent hit him instantly. Sour, foul, decaying leaves. Rogues. Crab's men touched her door. "Get in the car," Justin ordered. He did not ask this time. He pulled the passenger door open. Tiana looked at the shattered wood in her memory. She knew she could not go back to that room. The threat was real. She nodded once, sliding into the leather seat and pulling her bulky canvas backpack onto her lap. Justin slammed the door shut. He walked around to the driver's side, his fists clenched tight enough to draw blood. The turf war just escalated. The enemy crossed the line, and Justin planned to make them choke on their own mistake. Chapter 11. Justin drove across the city, leaving the rundown neighborhoods far behind. He gripped the steering wheel tight, his knuckles stark white in the dim dashboard light. The dark sports car swallowed the miles, carrying them toward the industrial district. Silence stretched between them, thick and heavy with unsaid threats. Tiana watched the city lights blur past the window. She kept her hands resting on her canvas backpack. She lost her car to his temper, and now she lost her apartment to his enemies. The reality hit like a punch to the gut, but she shoved the feeling aside. Panic served zero purpose. Justin pulled into a subterranean parking garage beneath a towering, windowless warehouse. He parked the car near a heavy freight elevator. "Where are we?" Tiana asked, stepping out onto the concrete. "My secondary secure location," Justin stated. He punched a code into a steel keypad. "No one tracks this building. The perimeter holds reinforced steel and motion sensors." The elevator doors opened with a loud clank. They rode up to the top floor in silence. The metal grate slid back, revealing a sprawling, open-concept loft. The space looked like a fortress dressed up as a magazine cover. Exposed brick walls met floor-to-ceiling, bulletproof windows overlooking the skyline. Dark leather furniture sat on polished concrete floors. The scent of crisp cedar and rain filled the air, grounding Tiana's frazzled nerves. It smelled clean. It smelled safe. "Guest room is down the hall," Justin said, pointing toward a closed door. "Kitchen is stocked. You will remain here until I eliminate Krav and his scouts." Tiana walked over to the kitchen island. She dropped her backpack onto the black marble surface. The sound echoed in the cavernous room. She turned to face him, planting her hands on her hips. "Let's get one thing straight," Tiana said, her tone sharp. "I appreciate the shelter, but you do not lock me in a tower." Justin frowned. He crossed the room, his imposing frame casting a long shadow. "You are a target. You lack the physical strength to fight a pack of rogue Lycans. You stay here. It is not a request." His inner wolf paced, agreeing with the alpha logic. Keep her in the den. Keep her safe. Never let her leave. "I am a clinic nurse," Tiana fired back. "I run trauma codes, handle volatile patients, and save lives every single day. Do not treat me like a fragile glass doll you bought at a charity auction." Justin stopped 3 feet away from her. The fire in her eyes challenged his authority. No one challenged him in his own territory. He expected her to tremble after seeing her smashed door. Instead, she stood her ground, demanding agency. "They want to use you to break me," Justin explained, dropping the cold CEO act. His voice softened, revealing the raw panic underneath. "If they get their hands on you, they win." "Then we make sure they don't get me," Tiana countered. "But I will not sit in that guest room waiting for updates. If this war involves me, I get a seat at the table. I know this city. I know the people in it. If you want to beat them, use my brain instead of just flexing your muscles." Justin stared at her. The sheer willpower radiating from her small frame amazed him. She refused to cower. His beast let out a deep, rumbling purr of approval. She possessed a warrior's heart. Justin unbuttoned his suit jacket and tossed it onto a nearby chair. "Fine. You want a seat at the table? Earn it." Chapter 12. Midnight settled over the city, but the lights inside the safe house burned bright. Justin stood at the black marble kitchen island. He unrolled 3 large architectural blueprints and a detailed street map of the downtown grid. He weighed the corners down with heavy coffee mugs. Tiana walked out of the guest room. She ditched her faded gray scrubs for a pair of black sweatpants and a plain white t-shirt she found in a dresser. She could not sleep. The adrenaline still pumped through her veins. Justin held a phone to his ear. "Bram, shift the patrols to the north side of the docks. Krav uses the shipping containers to move his scouts. Gut anyone who crosses the perimeter." He hung up, tossing the phone onto the marble. Tiana stepped up to the island. She looked down at the sprawling map. Red markers dotted the paper, tracking suspected rogue movements. Justin marked his own enforcers with black ink. The downtown medical district sat right in the center, circled in heavy red marker. "You leave a gap right here," Tiana said, pointing a finger at a narrow alleyway 2 blocks west of her clinic. Justin looked down, his brow furrowing. "That is a dead end. A brick wall blocks the exit. They cannot route a strike team through a closed box." "It is a dead end for cars," Tiana corrected. She leaned over the map, her eyes scanning the grid. "But a fire escape drops down from the old textile building right into that alley. During shift change at the hospital, the street traffic backs up. If Crab's men drop from that fire escape, they bypass your street patrols completely and hit the clinic loading dock undetected." Justin went completely still. He analyzed the route she pointed out. He ran the tactical simulation in his head. She hit the mark. The blind spot existed, hidden by the vertical drop of the rusted fire escape. His highly trained enforcers missed it. He looked up from the map and stared at Tiana. She stood beside him, her face focused, her mind calculating the enemy's next move. She did not possess fangs or claws, but she wielded her intellect like a sharpened blade. She understood the city's rhythm. She knew how the shadows worked. Justin's inner beast swelled with absolute pride. The wolf stopped whining. It sat down in his mind and watched her with pure reverence. "Our mate is brilliant. She hunts with us." "How do you know that?" Justin asked, his voice low and full of newfound respect. "I eat lunch on the clinic roof," Tiana answered, shrugging her shoulders. "I hear the delivery trucks grinding their gears blocks away. I catch the scent of exhaust backing up in that bottleneck long before the jam starts. Growing up a ward of the state without parents meant I had to keep my senses sharp. If I wanted to avoid detection, I would take the high ground and drop down behind the traffic." Justin picked up a black marker. He uncapped it with his teeth and drew a heavy line across the alleyway she identified. He picked up his phone and hit Bram's number again. "Change of plans," Justin ordered into the receiver, his eyes never leaving Tiana's face. "Pull 2 men off the docks. Set up a sniper nest on the roof of the old textile building near the clinic. Watch the fire escape. We have a leak to plug." He hung up the phone. The dynamic in the room shifted, falling into a new, balanced alignment. Justin finally understood she was not a liability he needed to cage. She was a tactical asset. "You see the board clearly," Justin admitted. He leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. "I survive on my own," Tiana replied, meeting his intense gaze. "You might run the boardrooms, Justin, but I know the streets. We work together, or I walk out that door." Justin let a slow, dangerous grin spread across his face. "We work together." Chapter 13. Justin patrolled the concrete perimeter of the warehouse. The night air bit at his skin, but the cold did not bother him. His senses flared, cataloging the urban grid. He kept his charcoal dress shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He left Tiana upstairs in the secure loft, safe behind bulletproof glass, but his inner beast demanded he check the perimeter one more time. The turf war required absolute vigilance. A shadow shifted near a stack of wooden pallets. Justin spun. A rogue scout lunged from the darkness. The attacker wielded a jagged switchblade. The street lamp caught the lethal, bright shine of the metal. Silver. Krav equipped his bottom-tier thugs with poison. The scout slashed upward. Justin sidestepped, moving with blinding speed, but the blade clipped his left forearm. The silver tore through his dress shirt and bit into his flesh. Fire erupted in his veins. The toxic metal burned like acid. Justin did not shout. He grabbed the rogue's wrist, twisted hard, and snapped the bone. The scout dropped the knife with a choked gasp. Justin grabbed the man by his coat collar and hurled him into a rusted dumpster. The metal bin rang out like a cracked bell. The unconscious rogue slid to the trash-covered ground. Justin stared at his bleeding arm. The cut was shallow, but the silver laced the edges with an angry, blistering red. He cursed under his breath, turned on his heel, and took the freight elevator back up to the safe house. The metal grate clanked open. Justin stepped into the sprawling loft. Tiana stood at the black marble kitchen island. She still wore the borrowed black sweatpants and plain white t-shirt. She held a glass of water, unable to sleep. Her eyes darted to Justin, immediately catching the dark stains spreading down his sleeve. Blood dripped from his fingertips onto the polished floor. "Sit down," Tiana ordered. She set her glass on the marble. Justin stiffened. "It is a scratch." "You are bleeding on the concrete. Sit." She pointed to a leather bar stool. Justin's inner beast whimpered. The wolf hated disappointing her. He dragged his feet and sat on the stool, resting his injured arm on the counter. Tiana marched into the adjacent bathroom. She pulled a white plastic first aid box from beneath the sink. She noted its location earlier, a habit born from years working in a trauma clinic. She returned to the island and popped the latches on the plastic box. She pulled out sterile gauze, saline wash, and medical tape. She reached for his arm and unbuttoned his cuff. She rolled the ruined sleeve higher. Tiana inspected the wound, her brow furrowed. "This burn pattern is strange. The edges look chemically blistered." "Silver," Justin muttered, grinding his teeth. "Poison for my kind." "Understood," she replied, her tone switching to pure clinical focus. She soaked a square of gauze in the saline wash. She pressed it against the angry red cut. The salt and liquid reacted with the silver residue. A fresh wave of agony hit Justin. He did not flinch from the pain. He flinched because her fingers brushed his skin. Inside his head, the terrifying, unhinged beast melted into a puddle of mush. The wolf let out a high-pitched, pathetic whine. "Mate heals us. Mate cares. Give her everything." The ferocious animal rolled onto its back in his mind, begging for more attention. Justin's breath hitched. He tried to maintain his stoic, ruthless CEO glare, but the sheer force of his wolf's adoration sabotaged him. A hot, dark blush crept up his neck and settled over his cheeks. Tiana paused. She looked up from the wound. She caught the blush coloring his face. She watched the billionaire Lycan, a man who broke bones with his bare hands, look away like a shy teenager. "Are you embarrassed?" Tiana asked, a smirk breaking through her serious expression. "No," Justin choked out, his voice an octave too high. "Your face is bright red," she pointed out, dabbing the cut again. The wolf pushed to the surface. Justin lost the internal tug of war. His spine relaxed, his broad shoulders slumped forward. He leaned across the black marble counter and dropped his heavy head right onto Tiana's shoulder. He buried his face in the crook of her neck, letting out a long, shuddering sigh. He acted like a giant, needy hound seeking comfort. Tiana froze for a fraction of a second. The weight of his head surprised her. Then, a soft laugh escaped her lips. She did not push him away. She reached up with her free hand and patted his dark hair. "Big, tough Alpha," Tiana teased, wrapping the white bandage tight around his forearm, brought down by a little saline. Justin mumbled something unintelligible against her collarbone. He refused to move. The silver burned, the turf war raged outside, but inside the loft, the beast finally found peace. Tiana secured the medical tape, letting him rest his heavy head on her shoulder until the bleeding stopped. Chapter 14. The next evening, the freight elevator groaned, announcing a visitor. Bram stepped into the safe house. The lead enforcer looked rough. Dust coated his boots, and a fresh bruise darkened his jawline. He carried a rolled-up city schematic under his arm. Justin stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his injured arm wrapped in the crisp white bandage Tiana applied the night before. He turned to face his second-in-command. Tiana sat on the leather sofa, her bulky canvas backpack resting near her feet. She looked up from a battered paperback book. The tension in the room spiked the moment Bram arrived. "Report," Justin commanded, his voice returning to its sharp, authoritative edge. Bram tossed the schematic onto the black marble island. Krav escalated. His scouts hit the supply trucks near the northern docks. They burned 2 vehicles. They also smashed the windows of the coffee cart outside the county clinic. Tiana closed her book. She stood up and walked toward the men. The coffee cart? Why hit a vendor? They left a message painted on the sidewalk, Bram answered, his face grim. They are looking for the nurse. Krav knows you are Justin's weak point. He plans to trash the medical district until we hand you over. Justin's eyes flashed gold. His hands curled into fists. Double the street patrols. I want snipers on every rooftop from the clinic to the transit station. Shoot any rogue on sight. No, Tiana interjected, stepping up to the marble counter. Both men stared at her. Tiana smoothed the wrinkles out of her plain white t-shirt. She looked at the city schematic. You cannot lock down an entire medical district. Ambulances need access. Patients need care. If you turn the streets into a war zone, innocent people get caught in the crossfire. I protect what is mine, Justin growled. His inner wolf paced, frantic and angry at the threat. Krav will not touch you. Krav is a coward, Tiana countered, her pragmatic mind breaking down the problem. He hides behind his scouts and burns empty trucks. He wants a reaction. He wants to draw you out, Justin. If we stay locked in this tower, he keeps destroying the city. We need to force his hand. How? Bram asked, crossing his thick arms. We give him what he wants, Tiana stated. She tapped the center of the map. I walk to the clinic, alone. Justin froze. The silence in the loft became suffocating. Then the Alpha exploded. Absolutely not! Justin roared, slamming his uninjured hand flat against the marble. The stone cracked under the impact. You will not offer yourself to a pack of rabid street thugs. The discussion is over. Tiana did not flinch. She spent years handling arrogant surgeons who thought they owned the hospital. She knew how to dismantle a temper tantrum. Stop yelling, Tiana said, keeping her voice even and calm. You claim we are equals. You claim I have a seat at this table. Act like it. Listen to the strategy. Justin ground his teeth together. His beast howled, clawing at his mind, terrified of putting her in danger. Explain. Krav will not send a scout to grab me, Tiana reasoned, tracing a line down the map. He wants the glory of breaking you. If he thinks I am unprotected, he will come for me himself. He steps out of the shadows. You position your enforcers along the route. When he springs the trap, you drop the hammer. Justin stared at her. The logic was flawless. It offered a clean, decisive end to the turf war. But the bait was the woman his beast adored. The risk is astronomical, Justin argued, his voice dropping to a desperate rasp. If Bram misses a blind spot, if a sniper hesitates, Krav is fast. He could snap your neck before I reach the pavement. A low, vibrating rumble built in the back of Tiana's throat. She snapped her jaw shut, swallowing the wild sound before Justin could hear it. I am not a fragile piece of glass, Tiana fired back, stepping into his space. She tilted her head back to meet his intense stare. I bounced through 6 different foster homes before I turned 18. I survive on these streets every day. I know how to keep my head down, mask my trail, and buy time. If we do not stop him tonight, Krav burns the clinic tomorrow. I refuse to let my coworkers suffer because I am hiding in an exorbitant apartment. Justin searched her brown eyes. He looked for a trace of hesitation, a hint of fear. He found nothing but iron resolve. She owned her choices. She refused the role of the helpless hostage. She demanded to fight. His inner wolf stopped pacing. The beast sat down, vibrating with a mix of terror and profound awe. The mate was a warrior. Justin looked at Bram. The enforcer gave a slow, grim nod. The plan offered their best shot at crushing the rogue boss. Justin turned his gaze back to Tiana. The air hung heavy between them. He realized keeping her caged inside the safe house destroyed the very fire he admired. You walk at midnight, Justin conceded, his voice heavy, but you follow my rules. Chapter 15. Justin paced the length of the loft. His dress shoes clicked against the polished concrete. He lost the argument. He agreed to let Tiana walk into a gang of killers. His inner wolf suffered a complete, humiliating meltdown. "She leaves! She dies! We fail!" The beast scratched at his skull, whining in pure panic. Justin rubbed his temples, trying to banish the headache forming behind his eyes. He forced himself to operate like a general, shoving the pathetic animal instincts into a dark corner. Bram unrolled a fresh set of blueprints on the black marble island. Tiana stood beside the enforcer, reviewing the path. "We route you down 4th Avenue, Bram instructed, tracing the street with a thick finger. "The streetlights are blown out. It looks vulnerable. Krav will choose that corridor to ambush you. I will station 3 snipers on the fire escapes above." Justin stopped pacing. He marched over to a heavy steel lockbox resting on a side table. He punched in a code and pulled out a handful of tactical gear. He walked back to the island and dropped the items in front of Tiana. "Put this in your ear," Justin ordered, handing her a tiny, matte black communication earpiece. "It stays on an open frequency. I will hear your breathing. If your heart rate spikes before we reach the kill zone, I abort the mission." Tiana took the small device and pressed it into her left ear. It fit snug and silent. Justin picked up a flat silver disc the size of a coin. "GPS tracker. Put it in your pocket. Do not lose it." Tiana slid the disc into the pocket of her black sweatpants. She watched Justin. His face remained carved from ice, but his movements betrayed him. His hands trembled slightly. He checked the magazine of his sidearm 3 times. He inspected the white bandage on his own forearm, ensuring the tape held firm. He looked like a man preparing for his own execution. "I know what to do, Justin," Tiana said softly, trying to ease his panic. Justin ignored her reassurance. His inner wolf forced him into motion. He walked into the guest room and returned holding a heavy, tailored wool coat. The garment looked luxurious, cut from premium fabric meant to withstand harsh winters. It dwarfed her frame. He stepped up to her and held the coat open. "Put it on." Tiana frowned. "I am wearing a t-shirt. It is fine." "The street is cold," Justin insisted, his jaw tight. "The fabric is lined with Kevlar mesh. Put it on." Tiana sighed and slipped her arms into the heavy wool sleeves. The coat fell past her knees, swallowing her borrowed white t-shirt. She looked ridiculous, like a kid playing dress-up in an executive's closet. Justin did not care about the fashion. His beast needed to wrap her in armor. He stepped closer, his large hands reaching down to her feet. He grabbed the laces of her cheap sneakers, untied them, and pulled the strings tight before double-knotting them. "Justin, what are you doing?" Tiana asked, staring down at the top of his head. "Securing your footwear," he muttered, standing back up. "Loose laces are a tripping hazard during an extraction." Tiana bit her lip to stop a laugh. The ruthless billionaire CEO just tied her shoes. The contrast between his deadly reputation and his obsessive care knocked the wind out of her. She reached out and rested her hand flat against his chest. She felt the rapid, chaotic thud of his heart through his dress shirt. "I will stick to the route," Tiana promised, looking up into his golden eyes. "I will not run. I will not hide. I will draw him out, and you will finish it." Justin placed his hand over hers. His fingers dwarfed hers completely. He squeezed her hand, drawing strength from her calm, steady pulse. The beast in his head quieted, anchored by her touch. "Bram shadows you from the rooftops," Justin detailed, his voice rough. "I take the ground. I will stay 2 blocks behind you. Krav will not sense my scent until the trap springs. When he steps into the street, you drop to the pavement. Do not try to fight him. You let me handle the violence." Tiana nodded. She grabbed her bulky canvas backpack from the sofa and slung it over the heavy wool coat. She checked the earpiece. She checked the tracker. She prepared her mind, locking away her fear behind a wall of clinical detachment. The digital clock on the wall flashed midnight. Justin stepped back. He gave her one last, lingering look, committing her face to memory. He turned to Bram. "Move out. We end this tonight." Tiana turned toward the metal grate of the freight elevator. The hunt began. Chapter 16. Tiana stepped out of the subterranean parking garage and onto the cracked pavement. The city swallowed her instantly. The heavy overcast sky blocked the moon, turning the downtown grid into a maze of deep shadows and flickering neon signs. A cold wind swept down the avenue, carrying the smell of wet asphalt and rusted iron. She adjusted the straps of her bulky canvas backpack. The Kevlar-lined wool coat weighed heavily on her shoulders, but it blocked the chill. "Audio check!" Justin's rough voice crackled through the tiny earpiece. "Loud and clear," Tiana whispered, keeping her head forward. "Start walking. Keep your pace steady." Tiana headed toward the medical district. She forced her feet to move in a rhythmic, unhurried march. Her clinical training kicked in. She monitored her own vitals. Heart rate, elevated but stable. Breathing, deep, measured intakes through the nose, slow releases through the mouth. She refused to let adrenaline spike her pulse and alert Justin to abort the plan. She passed a row of shuttered storefronts. A closed bodega sat dark on the corner, its metal security gate pulled tight. The street sat completely empty. The silence felt unnatural, heavy with impending violence. "Approaching 4th Avenue," Bram's voice joined the comms channel. "Snipers are in position. Street is clear." Tiana turned the corner onto the designated route. The city planners neglected this block. 3 streetlights sat dark, their bulbs shattered. Shadows pooled in the deep alleyways between the brick buildings. It looked like the perfect place to disappear. She kept walking. Her sneakers hit the pavement with soft, steady thuds. The double-knotted laces held firm. Scuff. The sound echoed off the brick wall to her left. It sounded like a heavy boot dragging across loose gravel. Tiana's breath caught in her throat. She did not stop walking. She did not turn her head. She kept her eyes locked on the illuminated clinic sign glowing 3 blocks away. "Movement in the West Alley," Bram reported through the earpiece. His voice sounded cold, completely detached. "Hold your fire! Wait for the primary target!" Tiana stepped into the darkest stretch of the avenue. The shadows closed in around her. The air grew thick with a sudden, sour stench. It smelled like decaying leaves and stale sweat. Rogues. They tracked her scent. They circled the bait. A figure stepped out from the shadows of a recessed doorway, blocking her path forward. Tiana stopped. She tightened her grip on her backpack straps. The man wore a torn leather jacket. A long, jagged scar ran down the side of his face. He held a switchblade down by his thigh. The metal caught the faint glow of a distant neon sign. "Look what wandered away from the high-rise," the scarred man taunted, flashing a set of yellowed teeth. Tiana heard the distinct click of another switchblade opening behind her. She cast a quick glance over her shoulder. 2 more rogues stepped out of the east alley, cutting off her retreat. She stood boxed in the middle of the street. 3 hostiles on the ground," Tiana whispered, her voice steady. "Hold your position," Justin commanded through the earpiece. His voice sounded strained, a dangerous rumble vibrating with suppressed rage. "Wait for Krav." The scarred man took a step closer. He sniffed the air, his face twisting in confusion. He expected her to smell like terror. He expected her to drop to her knees and beg. Instead, the small nurse in the oversized coat stood perfectly still, watching him with the bored, annoyed expression of a doctor dealing with a difficult patient. "Boss wants you alive," the rogue sneered, pointing the blade at her chest. "But he didn't say you had to be conscious. Make this easy." Tiana did not raise her hands. She did not scream. She shifted her weight, preparing to drop to the pavement the second Justin gave the order. A slow, mocking clap echoed down the street. A 4th man walked out from the deep shadows of an old textile building. He moved with the heavy, rolling gait of an apex predator. He wore a heavy trench coat. His eyes gleamed with unnatural, feral malice. The sour stench in the air intensified, choking the wind. Krav. The rogue boss finally stepped onto the board. "I have to admit," Krav called out, stopping 10 feet away from her. "I thought Justin kept his pets on a tighter leash. Leaving you out here all alone? That proves he lacks the spine to rule this city." Tiana stared at the gang leader. She felt the heavy silence press down on the street. The trap snapped shut. She had him right where they wanted him. "Stand by," Justin whispered in her ear. The fury in his voice promised a bloodbath. "Drop!" Chapter 17. Stand by. Justin whispered in her ear. The fury in his voice promised a bloodbath. "Drop!" Tiana did not drop. She kept her sneakers planted firm on the cracked asphalt. She ignored the scarred rogue holding the switchblade. She ignored the 2 thugs blocking her escape route. Instead, she fixed her gaze on Krav, the rival gang boss wearing the heavy trench coat. "Justin, hold your position," Tiana murmured, her lips barely moving. A tense, confused silence hummed through the earpiece. Justin did not strike. He trusted her tactical mind, even when it defied his direct commands. Tiana adjusted the straps of her bulky canvas backpack. She let out a long, exaggerated sigh, channeling the exact tone she used for combative patients in the psychiatric ward. She looked Krav up and down, unimpressed. "You brought 4 grown men to corner a single clinic nurse in an alley," Tiana stated. She tilted her head, her brown eyes analyzing his posture. "Do you feel powerful right now?" Krav stopped walking. His triumphant sneer faltered. He expected begging. He expected tears. He did not expect a calm, clinical evaluation. "You hold no leverage here, human. Shut your mouth." "I am asking a genuine question," Tiana continued, taking a step toward him. Her oversized, Kevlar-lined wool coat swished around her knees. "Look at this setup. You destroy property. You burn empty trucks. You hide in the shadows. This is textbook overcompensation. Who are you trying to impress?" Krav blinked. He gripped the lapels of his trench coat. "I am taking this territory." "Territory is just concrete and streetlights," Tiana countered. She gestured to the empty, broken avenue around them. "You do not want real estate. You want validation. Let me guess. Your father ran a pack and he never thought you possessed the strength to lead. So you lash out at established alphas like Justin to prove your worth to a ghost." The scarred man with the switchblade lowered his weapon a fraction of an inch. He looked at Krav. "Boss, your old man did kick you out of the den when you turned 16. "Shut up, Grip," Krav yelled, his face turning a mottled shade of purple. Tiana seized the opening. She turned her attention to Grip. "And you follow a leader who dismisses you. Why? You crave a sense of belonging. The scars on your face tell me you take the hits for him, hoping he rewards your loyalty. Does he ever say thank you?" Grip stared at the pavement. He rubbed the back of his neck. "No, he just yells a lot." "Exactly," Tiana said, nodding in sympathy. "It becomes a cycle of toxic dependence. You seek approval from a father figure who is incapable of offering it because he never received it himself." Up on the fire escape, hidden in the shadows, Justin listened through the open comms channel. His inner beast sat down in his mind, tilting its head in utter bewilderment. The brutal street ambush morphed into a group counseling session. "I am a strong leader," Krav argued, his chest heaving. He pointed a clawed finger at Tiana. "I rule the underground." "If you rule the underground, why are you standing in a damp alley yelling at a nurse?" Tiana asked. She gestured to the curb. "Sit down, both of you. Let's unpack this." Krav looked around, bewildered. The other 2 thugs exchanged confused glances. The adrenaline faded from the air, replaced by uncomfortable self-reflection. Grip let out a heavy sigh, folded the switchblade, and shoved it into his pocket. He walked over to the curb and sat down on the cold concrete. He rested his elbows on his knees. "She makes a good point, boss. I never feel appreciated around here." Krav stared at his lead scout in horror. "Get up! We are here to kidnap her." Kidnapping me will not heal your inner child, Krav, Tiana said, keeping her voice soothing and level. It just puts a target on your back. Sit down. Talk about your father. One of the other thugs shuffled his feet, walked over, and sat next to Grip. My dad always told me I lacked ambition, the man mumbled. Within 10 minutes, the terrifying street thugs sat in a loose circle on the cracked asphalt. Grip talked about his fear of abandonment. The second thug discussed his anxiety regarding physical confrontations. Krav stood in the center, his hands trembling, a look of profound existential dread washing over his face. Justin, Tiana whispered into her earpiece, an amused smirk playing on her lips. I think they are ready for a breakthrough. A low, rumbling growl vibrated through the comms. Playtime is over, Justin replied. Chapter 18. Justin crouched on the rusted metal of the old textile building's fire escape. He watched the ridiculous scene unfold below. 3 hardened street criminals sat on the curb, discussing their childhood trauma with his mate. His inner wolf purred, vibrating with a mix of awe and amusement. She dismantled a gang war with nothing but a clinical tone and basic psychology. But Justin refused to let Krav walk away. The rogue boss dared to threaten Tiana. Therapy or no therapy, the Alpha required blood to settle the score. Justin stepped off the edge of the fire escape. He plummeted toward the street, the cold wind rushing past his face. He let his beast loose. The shift hit him mid-air. His bones cracked and reformed in a split second of searing heat. The charcoal dress shirt and suit trousers shredded into scraps. The crisp white bandage around his left forearm tore apart, exposing the angry, blistered silver burn. He did not care about the pain. The burn fueled his rage. Justin landed on the pavement with the force of a falling boulder. The concrete cratered beneath his paws. Cracks spiderwebbed across the street. He stood towering over the thugs, a giant, terrifying Lycan cloaked in midnight fur. His golden eyes burned like twin suns in the dark alley. The therapy session shattered. Grip scrambled backwards, screaming in pure terror. The other thugs fell over themselves, crawling away from the curb. Krav roared. He tapped into his own beast, his human skin giving way to matted, muddy brown fur. He shifted into a large wolf, but he looked small next to Justin's hulking frame. Justin did not hesitate. He launched himself forward. He covered the distance in a single bound, a flurry of teeth and claws. He slammed into Krav. The impact sounded like 2 cars colliding. They rolled across the broken asphalt, tearing at each other with savage fury. Tiana backed away, keeping her steps measured. She moved out of the kill zone, pressing her shoulders against the brick wall of the nearest building. The oversized wool coat shielded her from the flying debris. Justin dominated the fight. He pinned Krav to the ground, his jaws snapping inches from the rogue's throat. Krav thrashed, trying to kick Justin off. Justin's left foreleg buckled a fraction of an inch as Krav's claws scraped against the silver burn. A sharp jolt of agony shot up Justin's shoulder. Krav used the momentary weakness to twist free. The brown wolf scrambled to his paws, snapping his jaws at Justin's flank. Up on the surrounding rooftops, Bram's snipers went to work. Suppressed rifle fire coughed into the night. 2 rogue scouts waiting at the end of the block dropped to the pavement, neutralized before they could join the fray. But the snipers held their fire on the main event. Justin ordered them to leave Krav to him. Justin circled the rogue boss. His inner beast drowned out the pain of the silver burn. He moved with lethal, calculated precision. He lunged again, feinting to the right before crashing his heavy shoulder into Krav's ribs. The sound of breaking bone echoed down the empty avenue. Krav whimpered, stumbling sideways. He tried to retreat, realizing he lacked the strength to defeat the Alpha. Justin pressed the advantage. He swiped his massive right paw, catching Krav across the snout. The rogue boss spun, crashing into a rusted dumpster. The metal crumpled under his weight. Tiana watched the display of sheer dominance. She felt her own pulse race, not with fear, but with a strange, wild thrill. She saw the truth of his power. Justin did not just rule the boardrooms, he owned the streets. He fought to protect his territory, and he fought to protect her. Justin stood over Krav, baring his fangs, ready to deliver the final, crushing blow. The rogue boss lay pinned against the crushed dumpster, defeated and broken. But Justin locked his focus on his prey. He let his awareness of the perimeter slip. He forgot about the thugs who sat on the curb just moments ago. He left his blind spot exposed. Tiana caught the movement out of the corner of her eye. Grip and another thug crept out from the shadows behind Justin. They held fresh switchblades, the silver metal gleaming under the shattered streetlights. The snipers could not see them. An old canvas awning blocked the line of sight from the rooftops. Justin was in danger. Chapter 19. Tiana stared at the two rogues creeping toward Justin's exposed back. Grip gripped his silver blade tight, aiming for the Lycan's spine. The snipers remained silent, blind to the threat hiding beneath the canvas awning. Justin stood focused on Krav, his muscles coiled to strike the final blow. Panic stole the air from Tiana's lungs. She had no weapon. She had no backup. Her clinical detachment vanished. A primal, dormant instinct ignited in her chest. She spent her entire life hiding her bloodline, terrified of the underground politics. She kept her Omega status buried deep, choosing the simple life of a human nurse. But Justin bled for her. He bought a bus company for her. He tied her shoes to keep her safe. She refused to let him take a silver blade to the back. Tiana squeezed her eyes shut. She embraced the fire burning in her veins. She let the shift take her. Heat rushed through her limbs, her bones cracked, reshaping with fluid, rapid grace. The oversized Kevlar-lined wool coat pooled around her. The plain white t-shirt and black sweatpants tore apart. Her bulky canvas backpack hit the asphalt with a dull thud. The transformation lasted 3 seconds. Tiana opened her eyes. The world looked different. Scents exploded in her mind. Copper, wet asphalt, the sour stench of the rogues, and the crisp, clean scent of Justin's power. She stepped out from the pile of heavy wool clothing. She did not stand 10 feet tall. She did not possess giant, bone-crushing jaws or hulking, muscular shoulders. She was an Omega. Tiana stood the size of a medium dog. Her fur shone a brilliant, bright golden color, soft and incredibly fluffy. A thick, plumed tail swished behind her. She possessed small paws and bright, intelligent brown eyes. She looked less like a monster and more like a pampered show dog. Grip stopped his slow creep toward Justin. He lowered his silver switchblade. He stared at the spot where the human nurse stood moments ago. He looked at the pile of clothes and then down at the golden wolf. The second thug wiped his eyes, refusing to believe the sight in front of him. The tension in the alley shattered. Grip pointed a dirty finger right at Tiana. A loud, barking laugh erupted from his chest. "Look at the puppy!" Grip howled, slapping his knee. "The billionaire is protecting a golden retriever. What is she going to do, fetch a tennis ball?" The second thug joined in, chuckling as he stepped closer. "Here, girl, come get a treat." Tiana flattened her small, fluffy ears against her skull. She bared her teeth. A low rumble started in her chest. It lacked the earth-shaking volume of Justin's roar, sounding more like a vibrating cell phone, but it carried every ounce of her street-smart fury. She hated being underestimated. She survived double shifts in a trauma ward. She fixed her own problems. She possessed a warrior's heart, regardless of her size. Grip took another step, aiming a kick at her ribs. "Get out of the way, furball." Tiana did not retreat. She analyzed his stance, locating the exact weak point in his balance. She remembered her anatomy training. The human knee is a complex, fragile hinge, easily destroyed with the right amount of targeted pressure. She gathered her strength, digging her small claws into the asphalt. She coiled her back legs and launched herself directly at the laughing rogue. She flew through the air, a blur of golden fluff and pure rage. She bypassed his kicking boot completely. She clamped her jaws right over his left kneecap, sinking her sharp, precision teeth deep into the joint. Chapter 20. Tiana locked her jaws tight around Grip's knee. She twisted her small, golden body with brutal force, using her momentum to wrench the joint sideways. Crack! The sickening sound of the patella snapping echoed in the dark alley. Grip's laughter morphed into a high-pitched scream. The switchblade slipped from his fingers, clattering onto the concrete. His leg gave out completely. He dropped like a sack of bricks, crashing face first into the dirty pavement. He clutched his ruined knee, sobbing in the dirt. Tiana landed gracefully on all four paws. She spat a torn piece of dirty denim out of her mouth, shaking her head in disgust. The taste of rogue blood soured her tongue. The second thug froze. His smile vanished. He stared at his screaming partner on the ground, then looked at the small, fluffy wolf standing over the body. Tiana took a step toward him, flashing her blood-stained teeth. She let out another vibrating growl, daring him to try his luck. The thug dropped his knife. He raised his hands, backing away slowly before turning and sprinting down the avenue into the darkness. The commotion behind Justin broke his focus. He kept Krav pinned beneath his heavy front paws, but he turned his massive, dark head to check his blind spot. Justin's golden eyes widened. He saw the dropped silver switchblades. He saw the scarred scout writhing on the ground holding a shattered knee. And standing right in the middle of the carnage, guarding his back, was the most beautiful creature he ever witnessed. His inner beast stopped breathing. The unhinged, violent monster inside his head completely melted. Mate shifted. Mate is fluffy. Mate bites knees. We love her forever. Justin felt a surge of profound reverence. She did not hide. She did not wait for rescue. She tapped into her hidden nature and fought a street thug to protect his life. The golden omega stood tall, her plumed tail swishing behind her, projecting pure defiance. Krav groaned beneath Justin's weight. The rogue boss tried to crawl away. Justin snapped his attention back to his prey. His patience evaporated. He grabbed Krav by the scruff of his neck, lifting the heavy brown wolf off the ground. He slammed Krav back into the concrete with enough force to knock the breath from the rogue's lungs. Krav whined, a pathetic, submissive sound. The rogue boss went limp, yielding the territory, yielding the fight, and submitting to the true alpha of the city. Justin dropped him. He let out a deafening, triumphant roar that shook the glass in the surrounding buildings. The turf war ended right there on the cracked pavement. Justin turned his back on the defeated boss. He shifted forms. The dark fur melted away. He stood naked in the cold night air, breathing hard, his muscles tense. He ignored the stinging pain radiating from his silver-burned forearm. He focused entirely on the small golden wolf waiting near the pile of clothes. Tiana watched him approach. She felt the heat return, the magic reversing her form. Bones shifted, fur receded. In seconds, she knelt on the asphalt in her human skin, shivering in the cold wind. Justin moved fast. He grabbed the oversized, Kevlar-lined wool coat from the ground and wrapped it tight around her shoulders. He pulled her up, his large hands gentle against her arms. He did not treat her like a fragile liability. He looked down at her with total respect. "You guarded my back," Justin said, his voice a rough, awe-struck whisper. "You left your blind spot open," Tiana replied, pulling the coat tight. She offered a tired, genuine smile. "Someone had to watch it." Justin leaned down and pressed his forehead against hers. The street remained silent, the rogue threat crushed. They stood in the alley, chests heaving, breathing in the cold air. The Billionaire Lycan and the fierce clinic nurse survived the night, standing side by side as perfect equals. Chapter 21. The fighting stopped. The harsh reality of the street bled back in, replacing the adrenaline with cold night air. Justin and Tiana stood in the alley. The silence stretched out, broken only by the ragged sound of their breathing and the pathetic whimpers coming from Grip. The rogue scout clutched his shattered knee, rolling in the dirt. Krav remained pinned against the crushed metal of the dumpster, completely motionless, accepting his defeat. Justin did not rush over to check Tiana for injuries. He did not treat her like a fragile liability. The billionaire Lycan stood naked on the cracked pavement, his chest heaving, his muscles pulled tight. His golden eyes locked onto hers. He saw the fire in her stance. He recognized the warrior underneath the nurse's uniform. She stepped onto his battlefield and held her ground. His inner wolf sat in his mind, awestruck. The beast let out a deep, vibrating purr, humbled by her courage. "Equal," the wolf acknowledged. "Our equal." Tiana pulled the oversized, Kevlar-lined wool coat tighter around her shoulders. She shivered as a sudden gust of wind swept down the avenue, but she refused to break eye contact. She did not lower her chin. She survived the ambush on her own terms. A heavy, dark SUV rolled down the block, its tires crunching over the loose gravel. The vehicle stopped a few yards away. The doors opened, and Bram stepped out onto the asphalt. 3 enforcers followed him. They wore tactical gear and carried heavy restraints. "Secure them," Bram ordered, pointing to the defeated rogues. The enforcers moved with brutal efficiency. They dragged Krav away from the dumpster, locking his wrists in heavy metal cuffs. They hauled Grip up by his good leg, ignoring his screams, and shoved him into the back of the SUV. The threat vanished, swept away by Justin's men. Bram walked over to Justin. The lead enforcer did not comment on the billionaire's lack of clothing or the torn white bandage hanging off his left forearm. He held out a fresh charcoal suit jacket. Justin took the jacket and slipped it on over his shoulders. It provided minimal cover, but it re-established his authority. He turned his attention back to Tiana. "You did not drop," Justin stated, his voice a low, rough rumble. He referenced his final command right before the fight broke out. "I found a better angle," Tiana countered. She gestured to the spot where Grip lost his weapon. The silver switchblade still gleamed under the shattered streetlights. "Dropping would put me on the defensive. I prefer to stay on my feet." Justin looked at the abandoned weapon. He looked back at Tiana. The corners of his mouth twitched, threatening to form a smile. He respected her defiance. He needed her defiance. "We need to leave the perimeter," Bram advised, stepping back toward the SUV. "The local police will respond to the noise complaints soon." Justin nodded. He gestured toward his sleek, dark sports car, parked half a block away under a functioning streetlight. "My vehicle, now." Tiana did not argue. The adrenaline crash hit her hard. Her knees felt weak, and her muscles ached from the violent, rapid shift. She walked over to her dropped canvas backpack, hoisted it onto her shoulder, and headed for the car. Justin fell into step beside her. He kept his stride matched to hers, a silent vow to never let her walk alone again. They reached the car. Justin opened the passenger door. Tiana slid into the leather seat, the familiar scent of crisp cedar washing over her. The battle was over. The city belonged to them. Chapter 22. The freight elevator clanked to a halt. The metal grate slid open, revealing the secure, windowless safe house. The loft sat quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos of the streets. Justin walked straight to the black marble kitchen island. He dropped the ruined suit jacket onto a leather bar stool. He stood under the bright overhead lights, the angry, blistered silver burn on his left forearm exposed. The toxic metal continued to eat at the edges of the wound, preventing his natural healing from taking hold. Tiana dropped her canvas backpack on the floor. She did not head for the guest room. She walked right up to the island and pulled the white plastic first aid box from beneath the sink. She set it on the marble, popping the latches with practiced, efficient movements. "Sit," Tiana commanded, pointing to the stool. Justin did not hesitate. His inner beast bounded forward, eager to let the mate take charge. He sat down, resting his heavy arm on the cool stone counter. Tiana pulled out the sterile gauze and the saline wash. She did not ask if he was okay. She understood the pain. She soaked the square pad and pressed it firmly against the chemical burn. The silver hissed. Justin ground his teeth together, a low grunt escaping his chest, but he kept his arm perfectly still. "The cut is deeper this time," Tiana noted, her focus entirely on the injury. Crab's claws dragged the silver residue further into the muscle. "The healing process will be slow." "It does not matter," Justin replied, his voice rough. He watched her face. He watched the way her brow furrowed in concentration. "Crab is broken. The territory is secure." Tiana secured the fresh white bandage around his forearm, taping the edges tight. She stepped back, wiping her hands on a clean towel. "You won the war, but you left your blind spot wide open, Justin. You cannot lose focus just because you think you hold the upper hand." Justin did not offer an excuse. He accepted the criticism. "I underestimated the scouts. I assumed they fled when Crab fell." "Never assume," Tiana warned, leaning against the counter. She felt the exhaustion seeping into her bones. The events of the past 3 days finally caught up to her. "The streets do not play by boardroom rules." Justin reached across the island. He caught her hand, his large fingers wrapping around hers. The sudden contact sent a jolt of electricity up her arm. "I thought you were human," Justin admitted, his golden eyes burning with intensity. "You masked your scent completely. You hid your Omega bloodline from the entire city." "I prefer the quiet life," Tiana said, looking down at their joined hands. "Being an Omega in this city paints a target on your back. People assume you exist to serve the Alphas. I chose to serve my patients instead." Justin's inner wolf whined, hating the thought of her hiding in fear. "She serves no one. She rules with us." "You shattered a rogue's knee," Justin reminded her, a genuine, arrogant smirk finally breaking across his face. "You do not serve, you conquer." Tiana let out a tired laugh. She pulled her hand free, but the warmth of his touch lingered. "I defended myself. There is a difference." "The difference is irrelevant," Justin stated, standing up from the stool. He towered over her, but he did not crowd her space. He offered her the ultimate sign of respect. "You proved your strength. You earned your place here. Whatever you need, it is yours." Tiana looked at the billionaire Lycan. She saw past the wealth, past the ruthless reputation, and saw the man underneath. The wild adrenaline of the night faded into a deep, permanent bond. She did not need his money. She did not need his protection. She just wanted the partner standing in front of her. "I need a shower," Tiana said, turning toward the guest room. "And I need a new pair of scrubs. My shift starts at 8. Chapter 23. The morning sun broke through the heavy, overcast sky, casting a pale light over the city. Justin drove the dark sports car through the downtown grid. He wore a fresh, tailored suit, the crisp white bandage hidden beneath his sleeve. He navigated the traffic with ease, the tension of the past few days completely gone. Tiana sat in the passenger seat. She wore a new set of gray scrubs, purchased that morning from a local supply store. She felt rested, the long sleep in the safe house restoring her energy. She held a cup of cheap diner coffee in her hand. Justin pulled the car into a sprawling, chain-link enclosure, the city impound lot. Tiana frowned, looking out the window at the rows of wrecked and abandoned vehicles. "Why are we here? My car is totaled. The radiator is gone. The axle is bent. It costs more to fix it than the scrap metal is worth." "I am aware of the damage," Justin replied, turning the engine off. "We are finalizing the terms of our arrangement." He stepped out of the car. Tiana grabbed her bulky canvas backpack and followed him across the cracked pavement. They walked past rows of rusted sedans and stripped-down trucks. They reached the back corner of the lot. Her cherry-red sedan sat slumped against a concrete barrier. The front bumper remained crushed, folded inward like an accordion. The left headlight was nothing but jagged glass. It looked pathetic. Justin stopped in front of the wreckage. He reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a single, heavy steel key. He did not hand it to her. He held it up, letting the metal catch the morning light. "I destroyed your transportation," Justin stated, keeping his tone level. I attempted to solve the problem with cash. I attempted to solve it with a bus company. Both methods failed. You demanded respect. Tiana watched him, her arms crossed over her chest. I did, and you finally listened. Justin pointed to the empty space next to the ruined sedan. Parked in the dirt sat a custom matte black muscle car. The vehicle looked aggressive, built for speed and endurance. The engine block gleamed. It sat low to the ground, a street brawler cast in metal. I am not bribing you, Justin said, his golden eyes locking onto hers. This is not an apology. This is a tribute, a gift to the warrior who guarded my back in the alley. His inner wolf sat perfectly still, holding its breath, praying she understood the difference. The beast did not want to buy her. It wanted to arm her. Tiana looked at the matte black machine. She understood the shift in his approach. He stopped trying to shield her and started treating her like an equal force. He gave her a weapon for the streets. She reached out and took the heavy steel key from his hand. She felt the cool metal against her palm. She walked over to the muscle car, unlocked the door, and slid into the driver's seat. The leather felt firm and supportive. She gripped the steering wheel. It fit her hands perfectly. She turned the key. The engine roared to life, a deep, vibrating growl that echoed across the impound lot. It sounded like a beast ready to strike. Justin walked over to the passenger side. He did not open the door. He stood by the window, waiting for her permission. Tiana rolled the window down. She rested her arm on the door frame, mirroring the exact pose he struck during their first encounter in the rain. She let a confident, sassy smirk play across her lips. Get in, Tiana ordered, revving the engine once. Justin let out a short, genuine laugh. He opened the door and folded his large frame into the passenger seat. He surrendered control of the vehicle without a second thought. The Alpha learned his lesson. The best way to lead was side by side. Chapter 24. Tiana steered the matte black muscle car out of the impound lot. The heavy tires gripped the asphalt, responding instantly to her commands. She merged onto the main avenue, leaving the wreckage of her old life behind. Justin sat in the passenger seat, his long legs stretched out in the cramped space. He watched the city blur past the window. The turf war was over. Crab sat locked in a holding cell. The rogue threat vanished. His empire remained secure. But the true victory sat right next to him behind the wheel. You missed your turn, Justin noted, pointing toward the medical district. The clinic is 3 blocks back. I called out, Tiana replied, keeping her eyes on the road. I told the charge nurse I needed a personal day. I survived a car crash, a gang ambush, and a psychoanalysis session with a street thug. I earned a break. Justin's inner beast let out a happy bark. Mate stays with us. Mate drives the fast box. Good day. Where are we going? Justin asked, resting his uninjured arm on the center console. Out of the city, Tiana decided, hitting the gas. The muscle car surged forward, the engine roaring as they hit the highway on-ramp. I want to see the trees. I want to smell the air without the exhaust fumes and the garbage. Justin nodded. He liked the plan. He spent his entire life building walls, hoarding wealth, and crushing rivals. He forgot what the world looked like outside the concrete grid. He watched Tiana navigate the fast lane, her face relaxed, her brown eyes focused on the open road ahead. She did not fear his power. She matched it. They drove for an hour, leaving the towering skyscrapers and the noise behind. The landscape shifted from gray concrete to dense, green forests. The air rushing through the vents smelled of crushed pine and damp earth. Tiana rolled the windows down, letting the wind whip through the car. Justin closed his eyes, pulling in the sense of the wild. His inner wolf settled into a deep, contented slumber. The frantic pacing stopped. The desperate need to control every variable vanished. He found his anchor. Tiana pulled the car onto a scenic overlook. She parked the heavy machine near the edge of a cliff, overlooking a sprawling, untouched valley. She turned the engine off. The sudden silence felt massive, broken only by the sound of the wind rustling through the pines. She turned in her seat to face him. You know, for a ruthless billionaire CEO, you make an okay passenger. I adapt to my environment, Justin countered, a slow grin spreading across his face. And I recognize superior tactical driving when I see it. Tiana laughed, the sound bright and clear in the quiet air. She reached across the center console and grabbed his hand. She traced the edge of his knuckles, feeling the raw strength in his grip. We survived the week, Tiana said softly. We survived Krav, Justin corrected, interlacing his fingers with hers. We will survive whatever comes next. I hold the city, but you hold the strategy. I hold the steering wheel, she fired back, her sassy tone returning, and I decide the route. Understood, Justin agreed, leaning across the console. He pressed a kiss to the back of her hand, sealing the promise. He surrendered the map. He surrendered the control. They sat together in the matte black car, looking out over the endless green horizon. The Alpha and the Omega, the billionaire and the nurse. They faced the future, ready to build an empire on their own terms, making their own roads every step of the way. The end. Quick favor, don't go anywhere yet. If you thought Tiana was brave for staring down a billionaire alpha in the pouring rain, wait until you meet the heroine in this next story on your screen. You have to hear this disaster unfold. Click the video on your screen right now. The drama is off the charts.